Welcome to Monok in Hong Kong. We're gonna take a look at some watches. Let's go. Whoa, let's not go. The light's red. So the first stop here is Top Watch. As you can see, they got a bunch of Rolex on display, particularly Daytonas. This is essentially Daytonas galore. All variants, really. Even the platinum, blue dial. And you see the going rate for these watches. I hope it's pretty clear. So there we have the most famous one, the Panda, sitting at 190k, just underneath. Black dial to about 20k difference, which is fair. These are pretty interesting because I think they're white gold and having a really similar price. I'd say here's the value, but that's always been the case. These dials are pretty interesting. These meteorite style dials. The classic, the John Mayer Daytona, seen quite a bit of depreciation at 488,000. So these are all, I think most of these are used pieces, which makes sense. I think the ones up here are brand new, and you can see some discounts on them. Really cool RM. RMs are still really expensive. $2 million for this 1103. And this, that's a nice 5990. 730k. Clean. As a quick aside, if you're looking to get a watch, get in touch with me. Use the WhatsApp QR code or the links below in the description. Then we have more of the regular Rolex, for example. The Air Kings, the Melgaus, the Datejust, the Explorers. I really like this Explorer. Made a video on this recently, check that out. Pepsi, Jubilee, Oyster, a lot of choice. That's a really clean white gold BLRO with a meteorite dial. The Starbucks is sitting at right around 116k Hong Kong dollars now. It's kind of funny how this Speedmaster has just been relegated to the side, not that important here. So what's interesting here is we've got the entire Moon Swatch collection, the entire sets over here, and it's sitting, I think, at above retail, which you can get these in stores mostly. I think not in Hong Kong, but the rest of Europe, it's quite easy to pick these up from the store. This one, no, the white one, the Snoopy one, seems to be the most expensive Moon watch. If we look at Rolex over here, what's interesting is the red Sea Dweller. I like this watch, the 43mm watch. It's sitting at around 82,000. Also seen significant depreciation in comparison to 2022 prices, which is quite nice for buyers. And it's quite cool to see such a wide selection at almost every store. We'll go through a lot of them, but this is what you can expect, and that's really not something you see in most countries. This one's the pretty rare one. 40mm Sea Dweller, really cool watch. And then there's the 36mm OP Tiffany dial, well, turquoise. A bonus of coming and checking out these watches is the cool foods. I'm gonna try out this mango mochi. Excited. Thank you. Thank you. So one of the mango ones is 12 Hong Kong dollars. Well, that feels nice and cold. Thank you. Okay, so live review. Let's talk watches and eat mochi. That's my new series. And wow, that is a real piece of mango. It's not just some flavoring. It's quite nice. It's nice and cold. I'm sure my mouth's all white. That's how we do it here. So we're at the next stop. This one looks quite swanky. All the pieces are presented really nicely, so that's good for filming. So let's check it out. Unfortunately, you can't really see the prices here. So it all looks cool, but it's kind of pointless when you don't know how much these things cost, because everyone else displays their prices pretty transparently. GMT Masters, stainless steel Rolex, Daytonas, quite a few Yacht Masters here, the Yacht Master 2. Let's go to the next place. Okay, so we're now at Queen Watch. This is a pretty famous store because of the way the pieces are displayed and the sheer volume of watches that you have on display is absolutely insane. Left hand side, we've got a ton of Tudor, we've got some other niche watches. The focus really as usual, as always in Hong Kong, is Rolex, Rolex, and more Rolex. And a little bit of Panerai on the right. And you can see the people are crowding here because there's a really cool selection of watches. These are not necessarily the newest, hottest pieces, so it's not just the GMT Masters, but you have a lot more vintage stuff here and a ton of used watches, really good value. All of them are priced, so you can really come and window shop, price compare, and that makes a lot of sense because there's a ton of stores here. If you were to go in and check out every single piece by hand, then you'd be here for a couple of days. So as you can see, a ton of variety, a ton of ladies' watches as well. Ladies' Statejusts are quite the currency here as well. And then you have all sorts of years of the stainless steel Rolex catalog. There's one Hulk over there that's standing out amongst the sea of black-dialed watches. I particularly like the GMT Master with the green handsy 116710 LN. That's one of my preferred GMT Master watches. And apart from that, quite a few older Explorers, the Explorer 2, the 5-digit references. What's nice, in a sea of similar looking watches, you have the Schumacher Speedies. These are quite the treat, quite the watch actually. They've been slowly climbing up in price. I think they're quite a great buy, any of these Speedies really. You have the standard Speed as well, and you have a lot of rare watches, rare editions, stuff you don't typically find everywhere. These kind of limited edition watches that Omega has made over the years, which are actually kind of cool looking now. And the size is also pretty contemporary, on the smaller side, the 39mm for the reduced, really nice selection. I don't know why, but I've had a thing for Panerai as of the recent. They're all pretty similar looking, but I think it's a really cool design and kind of like one of those staple designs everyone wants to have one of in their collection. Maybe sometime. This IWC Pilot Mark 15 is quite an interesting looking watch. I like the hands on this, and also I think the dimensions of this piece are really nice at 38mm. Something I've kind of got my eye out on. Now here's a watch you don't really see that often. Tudor's first in-house movement watch, so the North flag. It's quite an interesting design. I wonder if they would ever reintroduce this piece. They've got the Ranger, which is kind of similar, so not sure, but this is one of those OG Tudor watches for those that got into Tudor pre-2018. What's interesting about this Union watch store is it is possibly the tiniest store in the world, and for its size, density of expensive watches is probably unparalleled. Look at that. Just look at what they've got here in this absolute tiny store. And that's what's kind of cool about Hong Kong. This is not necessarily a kind of pretentious experience. It's very much ubiquitous. There's watches everywhere. It's such a normal part of daily life here in Hong Kong, and I find that quite special. That's a really nice AP. These guys also got some high-end watches, some Pateks, APs, RMs, just displayed out there. Nothing special, just the regular stuff. Just your average RM 1102 sitting on a window. What is cool is you have sort of different genres of luxury items combined together, different aesthetics and themes behind each one of these stores. So here you have a 5980, you got a Meteorite Daytona, and right opposite you got some toy shops. In terms of really rare watches, yeah, just look at this selection in the small store. Check out that Daytona, for example. I think it might be overexposed, but I'm trying to work with this lighting. This Patek 5980, Calatrava, Aquanaut over there. And then your standard Rolex, well, not so standard, but you get the idea. Next up, London watch. Here we've got a ton of vintage stuff and modern stuff. The store is really nice, I'd say. It's nice to go in and browse the shelves. So we're inside at London Watch, and taking a look at the vintage stuff in this selection, you have a ton of different Submariners, pretty much all the references through the ages. So if we take a closer look, 5513s, you can see the year, you can see, of course, prices, but just look at the plethora. So you have 5513s across multiple years, so 20 years or more, and then it slowly goes. I think this entire section is 5513s actually. Here's the Mark 1, and you can see that they're priced accordingly. It really depends on which year, condition, and watch there is. Up here is the reference 1680s. Down here we have the original GMT two-tones that we've seen a re-release this past year. Pepsi's from back in the day, made for pilots. And that's a cool faded bezel. I don't know if that's something you prefer or not, whether you like something more bright like this. But this is overall quite a great store. If you're into vintage watches, there's a huge selection, and the coolest thing is it's not just watch only. You have papers, you have the box, and you can really pick between maybe 100 different ones from the same reference. If you're into your vintage Datejust, Air Kings, Oyster Quartz, then there's so much selection here. So all of these are 30 plus years old. And it's just kind of astonishing to see so much right in this one spot. Usually you'd expect to go to 100 different stores and then check one watch at each store, but here they're all for the picking. Up there's some pretty cool dates. One thing here is you find quite a few interesting names. If you want a vintage watch, like a Datejust, or you want to buy an Uno card, Monok is the place to come. So just to reiterate, if you want to get a John Mayer solid gold Daytona, or you want to get some oranges, you can do that here. That's a really nice AP. So that was a quick tour in this marketplace area where there's a couple of watch stores. I couldn't really get the name of this square. So this street here is Dundas Street, and there's also Kwangwa Street. It's basically in Monok. I think I put it on the map. And if you want to check out these watches, then this is a good place here to do it. That's been it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next.